Hey guys, Alex Kazor from Steelers Depot, and just recapping today's preseason week 2, 17-0 loss to the Philadelphia Eagles, and obviously not as much progress as I guess you would hope from week 1 to week 2. But again, you acknowledge, Ben and Bell and AB did not play today, so it was just like we did last week, and like I said, hopefully gonna do after every single game this year, preseason and regular season. Just a quick recap of my thoughts. Just kind of the first time through, haven't really gone back to watch the game again. Thoughts are going to evolve and change over time, but just kind of my initial thoughts going through each position group. Starting with quarterbacks, obviously the big story: Landry Jones, 4 interceptions. Might be the first time that's ever happened to a Steelers quarterback in the preseason. I went back on NFL.com as far back as their records go, which is 2001. Couldn't find another quarterback that had 4. Only found one that had 3, and that was Landry Jones in 2013. But like Mike Tomlin said, like we talked about on Twitter, there's context that has to be added to those interceptions. They're not all squarely and solely on him. Now, the first interception, the pick six by Nolan Carroll, I thought was on Landry Jones almost entirely. You could argue that Sammy Coates has to be able to sell, vertically better to create separation underneath, or that he has to work back harder to come to the football. But that's just a throw that Landry Jones can't make. It's a Hank concept, which was curl flat with another tight end or wide receiver, Eli Rogers in this case, who was open, by the way. It's a curl flat concept mirrored each side, and that's just an easy throw. It's a staple of Todd Haley's offense. It's something that's probably in your day one install, and Jones made a poor read and poor ball placement on the outside shoulder, and he paid the price for it. Everything else, though, you can add other factors. You have the tip drill interception, the fade to Kobe Hamilton. It's kind of just a fluky play. You have the go ball or corner out in the end zone to Sammy Coates. I don't think it was Jones' best decision, but I think that Coates has to sell that route better, work harder to find the football and make a play and act his size. So I think there's a lot of blame that can go there to Sammy Coates as well. And I think that's what Tomlin was implying when he talked about receivers needing to run better routes after the game, even during halftime, in his interview before the second half. The last one that he had, Jesse James gets destroyed off by Stephen Means off the edge, and Jones gets hit. The ball kind of lollipops up into the air. So there's a lot of factors to go into it. But what I do like about Landry Jones, though, is that it doesn't bother him. After that first interception, which again, pretty clearly his fault, he led the team to a long drive down the field, was able to get this offense going a little bit, convert on third downs, move the sticks, get into the red zone. I think he's able to shake those things off well, and I think that's the encouraging trait about Landry Jones. He's got that short-term memory. He's going to go out to the next series like it's the first one of the game. So I do appreciate that. It's not a good game by Landry Jones by any means, but I think there's context that has to be added. Running back, not a whole lot to say. I like some splash plays from Fitzgerald Toussaint. I think he had the longest run of the day of 11 yards, out of the backfield, a little bit of pass protection, some coverage work. I thought, he was kind of a well-rounded game from Fitzgerald Toussaint, and seeing some new things that we wanted to see and Mike Tomlin talked about. Dale Richardson, not a lot on the ground tonight. Special teams tackle, though, which is big for him. Tomlin said that at his press conference on Tuesday. Toussaint needed the splash. Richardson needed the details. And you make a special teams tackle on a punt coverage, those are the details. So that's a good sign for him. And Stingley and Brown Dukes are basically afterthoughts. I'm not even sure if Stingley had a snap tonight. Brown Dukes got some run in the fourth quarter, did a little bit with it, not a lot. But they're basically afterthoughts in this offense right now. Tight ends, Jesse James as a run blocker did a good job. I love his demeanor. He's got the size, 6'7" frame, 254. That's more than enough to be a good blocker with the length that he has. He's a physical guy that looks to finish every block, and I definitely appreciate that from a second-year kid. I think Heath Miller, Matt Spaeth taught him well. But he got beat on that interception by Landry Jones, the last one of the game. And tight ends in the Steelers offense, they're going to be asked to block defensive ends and outside linebackers and pass protection. And that's going to be a common occurrence for Jesse James. So that you can't just say, well, he's not going to do that in the regular season that much, because he will. First game he had last year, Week 8 against Oakland, he's blocking Khalil Mack by himself. That's just the standard the Steelers set, and no matter who it is, no matter what the circumstances are, that's the standard and expectation you have to reach. David Johnson as a blocker, I thought he did a lot of good things. You're going to see him as a fullback, tight end guy off the ball, in the backfield, on the ball. He can kind of wear all those hats. Only concern there is he doesn't have the length and the size in pass protection to do some of the things they could do, and they have done with Matt Spaeth and are going to do with Jesse James. Xavier Grimble, another pretty quiet game, had some physicality, which is good. I've been relatively impressed by him at the line of scrimmage, but he had a drop, and that's kind of the big issue coming out of camp was as a blocker and with his hands, and he had the drop tonight. And, again, he had a quiet way to end camp, and first preseason game was super quiet. This game pretty quiet as well. So I thought he would make at least some splash plays, and I know this offense in general, especially when he gets into the game with Vaughn at quarterback and the backup lineman in, it's tough. But I thought just his size and profile alone would lend itself to at least one or two splash plays so far, and it hasn't happened. Wide receiver Sammy Coates, very, very much back and forth. I guess you can say it's a step from last week, but not a leap by any means. It is just one step. Had that great toe tap catch. I think it was a 24-yard grab along the sideline. But like I said, some people will point to that first interception by Jones. The Coates could have worked harder back to the football. Definitely, I think it was the third interception where he's looking back to the ball in his corner out. He's not fighting for a position. Doesn't really finish the play. Kind of tips everything off. I think that's more on Sammy Coates than it was Landry Jones, to be perfectly honest with you. I thought Coates just kind of gave up on that play. So it's back and forth. I saw him once at a gunner on special teams, run down the punt. He was double viced by the Jammers, but he's on the ground, totally out of the play. Not going to cut it for Danny Smith. So there was some good, but still a lot of bad for Sammy Coates as well. Eli Rogers, though, good all around. Very much a slot receiver, a guy that is a very nuanced player for a second-year guy, which is very impressive. Guy that gets open, slot receivers. You're going to be targeted on third down, especially third and short. And Rogers had 2 pickups tonight. Very similar to last week. There was one, it's a little option route. Charlie Batch, if you watched the KDK broadcast, broke it down well. Where you're reading the leverage of the DB. If he's playing you outside, you're going to go inside. If he's playing you inside, you're going to go outside. Same thing as last week. DB playing outside, cut across his face on a little angled Texas route and move the sticks. You can go back and look at my film room on Eli Rogers from the Detroit game. You see the same exact play. We'll probably point it out some point during the week for Eli Rogers. Kobe Hamilton flashed, some big plays. There was some drops early, but he got a lot of play time, more than what I thought he would. You can kind of tell he's passing Levi Norwood. I'm not even sure if Levi Norwood played tonight. I think there was an injury there in Isaac Blakeney, but Hamilton had that great one-handed grab down the left sideline. And, you're flashing something, saying, hey, keep me around the practice squad. Yeah, I'm not perfect. Yeah, I'm not totally there, but I'm worth investing in and getting a second look and trying to develop. So I thought Hamilton did some good things, and the play time was definitely huge tonight, which is a positive for him. Offensive line, it's tough to tell on first look. A lot of pressure again. Dustin Vaughn sacked 4 times. He's been sacked 7 times in the last 2 games, so he's been beat up pretty good. Chris Hubbard at offensive tackle, obviously is not the guy that you want there, but the fact that he can play there is something that a lot of guys can't do. Most guys aren't 5 position players, and Hubbard is kind of that rare player that has experience with it. So, remember on game day, he's the number 4 tackle behind Gilbert and Villanueva and Harris. So it's kind of in the case of emergency, but it's just good to have in your back pocket just in case something severe ever happened. And so you have a guy that has played that position before just to get you through hopefully a quarter or something like that. So, that's not his main spot. And most guys can't even play all 5. So it's kind of tough to dog Hubbard for doing something that most guys aren't even attempted and asked to try to do. Though I understand the results tonight, last week in practice, have not been pretty. BJ Finney gave up a sack. I want to look at his whole game as a totality. Sometimes a lineman will give up a sack, and you think he had a bad game, but it is just one play out of however many he had, 40 or 50. So I do want to look at that. He was on my losers list tonight because of that, kind of in the moment thing, but we understand linemen kind of sometimes get unfairly judged for that. Unfortunate, Cody Wallace got hurt. Tomlin called it a hyperextension of the knee. Hopefully that's all it is. I know some people are probably asking or wondering, talking around the water cooler, why was Wallace still in there so late in the game? No one else really available. Ume Azoki probably wasn't available with his leg injury. Wade Hanson wasn't up and ready for team drills yet. They really didn't have anyone else to play center because even if you move a Finney or Hubbard inside to that center spot, who's going to take their spot? There wasn't anybody left. So because the lines were so short, you were forced to play someone like Cody Wallace. And it's unfortunate he got hurt, especially in the last 1 or 2 plays of the game. Almost makes you wish you didn't have that forced fumble recovery at the very end, just so you could keep Cody Wallace around. Defensive line, again, a little harder to tell. Stephon Tuitt had a tackle for a loss early. He's going to be a star. If you're a Steelers fan, watch him at all last year, you know how good Tuitt is. The league and the NFL fans in general are going to find out how good Stephon Tuitt is. He's already at a Pro Bowl level for me, but I think that it's going to be common acceptance to that standard after this season. A little quieter from Javon Hargrave, but I'm excited to see his tape out there. I think he probably played more than last week, which is what I want to see. I want to see you get a lot of snaps and see how you respond to playing on some tired legs. So I'm very excited to see Javon Hargrave, though I understand he did not have the impact clearly what he did against Detroit in week one. Thought LeBron Hooks made some plays against the run. I thought he had a decent week of practice. The last two practices, he was kind of active and involved. I think I saw one tackle tonight, or at least involved right in one. I don't think ESPN officially credited him with a tackle. But like I said, if they want to keep a third nose tackle on the practice squad, Hooks is the guy, a big body that can hold his own against the run. Outside linebacker, not much there. Obviously, lines were still pretty thin today. No Dupree, no Jarvis, no Chicolo. Travis Feeney, I don't know exactly how many snaps he had, but he was pretty invisible across the board. Did see him drop into coverage a couple times. We'll chart that and see exactly how often he was dropping. Clearly, he has the athleticism and the profile to do so. If you're a right outside linebacker, the right outside linebacker in the Steelers offense is going to drop more, so that would be his ideal spot. He's flipped in camp. I don't know exactly where he was at tonight. He was probably flipping a little bit. We'll check all that out in the charting. Not much else. Raska was getting snaps. Recently signed guy putting into the game action, which most guys. I know Hanson didn't do. I don't think Mosley Smith did. Wiggum played late, a couple fourth quarter snaps. So I don't know if that's a good thing for Rasko that they feel he's comfortable doing that, or if they just felt like they had to out of necessity because the lines were so thin. You had some Morton Riley, and that's really about it. Inside linebacker LJ Fort, another very active game. He's great against the run, getting off blocks, filling gaps, reading, diagnosing, not taking false steps. Very refined. I think player LJ Fort is pretty impactful and a good tackler, and an asset on special teams as well. I think he's getting close to, maybe not close, but it's going to be really tough to try to cut LJ Fort with a camp in the preseason that he's had so far, a little bit more of a known commodity as well. Not that he went through the entire regular season and part of, in the playoffs with Pittsburgh last year. Medikevich did have a tackle for loss and a nice chase down on special teams. A battle continues to go. Do they keep them all? Do they keep Johnson, Steven Johnson, LJ Fort, and Tyler Medikevich? I guess it's not impossible. And I know, let's say you only keep four safeties and you decide to keep, all the inside linebackers, but there is a point where you run out of spots to put the inside linebackers. There's only so many different places on special teams that inside linebackers can play. You're not going to put an inside linebacker at L2 on kickoffs. So you have to have some more athletic guys to fill all those things and to create some depth there as well. So although in theory it's easy to say, well, he's going to be a better special teamer, question is there a role for him on special teams? And that might be an issue once you start log jamming where you're going to have four inside linebackers play special teams. You're going to have 1 to 2 outside linebackers play there. You're going to have Rosie Nix. The bodies start adding up pretty quick. So something I don't know the answer for sure to it. I have to go back and kind of look at everything and map out possible special teams roles. But just food for thought. Cornerback, Montel Garner, physical guy. Saw that in camp. He loves to support the run. He'll come down and hit you. Not the biggest guy, but I do like his aggressiveness and tenacity he plays in run support. So that's good to see carry over into a stadium environment. Alhan Shabazz continues to show that size and that frame that he has. Had a nice breakup on a fade on the goal line. I'm in the end zone. Did that routinely in practice. And again, the Steelers have gravitated towards those guys that have some size, and that's why I think Shabazz is really good practice squad material. I think a lot depends if the Steelers add a slot corner at the end of training camp for their 53. Because if they don't, then you're either keeping Montel Garner on your 53 because someone has to have some sort of slot role experience. Because if you're going to keep Gay on the outside, if you're committed to that, or Garner's got to go in the practice squad. So I think that could be something to watch. What do they add another slot capable guy to back up Sean Davis? Speaking of Sean Davis, going to move to the safety corners. Now you saw Sean Davis play slot, saw him play safety. Durant Grant at safety. Thought Sean Davis had a quiet game, but a good game in the sense that he was making his tackles. He wasn't allowing yak. He was a physical guy. There was one run that I forget who it was, sometime in the first half, and Davis filled the alley and prevented a really big run. So thought he cleaned things up, probably got some of the nerves and some of those jitters out of the way. So I think a solid rebound game from Sean Davis, and no looking silly in the slot like Anquan Bolden made him look like last week. Shark, I thought was mostly good. I know there was that one touchdown. Did he fill the alley in time? I do want to go back and look at that again. Just I'm not 100% ready to say that it's all on him. I think he had the alley fill there, and yeah, he didn't do that job. But again, there's context. Other guys, possibly screwing that up and giving the running back almost that two-way lane that makes it tough, when you're trying to fill the alley. But I thought his tackling was solid, which is what we knew about Shark. It's not nothing brand new about Jamarco Thomas, but I thought 5 tackles, open field tackles, did some good things there. And Jacob Hagan, some special teams work, some physicality in the secondary. No, he's a guy that's not going to make this 53, trying to fight for a practice squad spot. But I thought he at least kind of made his name known and mentioned a little bit today and gets himself some decent tape out of this game. So I thought Jacob Hagan did some nice things as well. That's all I have. We'll continue our coverage on Steelers Depot. Myself, Dave Bryan, Matthew Marksy, Josh Carney, Dan Vasco, Michael K. Reynolds will probably do a weekly article as well. So follow us as we kind of really break this game down. As tough as it was to watch, we're going to watch it again and really go through it with a fine-tooth comb because we're here to try to figure out, exactly what went right and wrong and everything in between. So be sure to stick with SteelersDepot.com throughout the rest of the week. Thank you guys for watching. Be sure to subscribe to the channel if you want to be the first to see these videos at the end of every game, every week. And thank you guys for watching and appreciate the support. Alex Azor, Steelers.com, SteelersDepot.com.